Nobody expected a post-game presser from a defensive superstar to feel like a declaration of war, but that's exactly what happened. After a night where sacks piled up and the Browns' defense dominated, Myles Garrett didn't spend his spotlight talking about himself. He used it to praise Shedeur Sanders in a way that didn't sound like teammate hyperbole. It sounded like a verdict. This is our quarterback now. That matters for one simple reason. When your best player, the guy opponents game plan for every week, the heartbeat of the locker room, publicly names the rookie as the leader, it shifts every power dynamic in the building. Suddenly, the debate isn't academic, it's political. It's about loyalty, credibility, and who gets to decide the future of this franchise. Fans hear it. Players feel it. Ownership notices. And the coach who favored another plan, he's suddenly standing in the middle of a fast-moving storm. Tonight's moment was more than a highlight clip. It was the culmination of a story that started long before kickoff. A touted prospect sliding to the 5th round, grinding as the 4th stringer, and waiting for one chance to change everything. That throw Garrett referenced, the off-platform missile, the improvised 50-plus yard strike, did more than win yards. It rewired belief. If the rest of the league thought this was just another rookie win, they haven't been listening. Cleveland just changed the conversation, and now the clock is ticking on the coach's biggest decision. When the cameras turned toward Myles Garrett after the game, everyone expected the usual post-dominance routine. A breakdown of his 3 sacks, a few comments about the defensive game plan, maybe a light joke about terrorizing quarterbacks. Instead, the NFL's most feared pass rusher went in a completely different direction. He didn't talk about himself. He didn't talk about the defense. He didn't even talk about the 10 total sacks the Browns racked up. He talked about one thing, a rookie quarterback's arm. But it wasn't what Garrett said that stunned the room. It was the way he said it. There are not many guys in this league who can make that throw, he told reporters, referencing Shedeur Sanders' 50-plus yard strike to Isaiah Bond. There was no smile, no exaggeration, no teammate politeness. It was a flat, matter-of-fact declaration, the kind Garrett only makes when he truly believes what he's saying. And if there's one thing the league knows about him, it's that he doesn't hand out praise lightly. Garrett faces elite quarterbacks every week. He studies their tape. He knows exactly who has real arm talent and who survives off scheme. So when he says a young quarterback has tools most NFL starters don't, that's not flattery. That's expertise. And here's where the significance hits harder. Garrett didn't have to say any of this. He have focused on defense. He could have avoided the quarterback drama entirely. He could have played it politically safe. Instead, he made a choice, a very deliberate one. In NFL locker rooms, leaders speak carefully. A comment like this isn't random. It sends a message. To teammates, follow this guy. To the front office, this kid can win games. To Stefanski, don't overthink the obvious. And to Shedeur himself, it was validation from the one voice in the building every player respects. Garrett didn't just praise a throw. He endorsed a quarterback. He supported a shift. And by doing so, he changed the tone of the entire organization overnight. And the wild part is, that throw he's talking about wasn't even the only moment that shook the sideline. There are big throws, there are highlight throws, and then there are the rare, reality-shifting throws that make an entire sideline stop what they're doing and rethink everything they thought they knew. Shedeur Sanders delivered one of those throws, and it wasn't a fluke, a busted coverage, or a right place, right time moment. It was pure quarterback artistry under pressure. The play started collapsing from the moment the ball was snapped. Protection broke down, the pocket tightened, and the Raiders sent heat that would have rattled most rookies into either a panic checkdown or a drive-killing sack. But Shedeur didn't flinch. He slid, reset, and kept scanning downfield with the kind of patience and poise that's almost unnatural for a first-time starter. And then, with barely a step of balance and defenders crumbling around him, he launched a missile. Not a lob, not a hope throw. A frozen rope, off-platform, 50-plus-yard bullet that cut through the air like it was fired from a jugs machine. Isaiah Bond didn't just catch the ball. It arrived like it was magnetically pulled to his hands. And in that instant, it wasn't the 50 yards that shook the building. It was the disbelief. Players on the Browns sideline jumped like kids seeing a magic trick for the first time. Coaches stared. Veterans mouthed no way. Even opposing defenders seemed momentarily stunned. You can fake enthusiasm in a locker room. You can't fake shock. And what Cleveland's sideline showed was genuine shock. The kind that only comes when someone does something you didn't think they were capable of. And it wasn't just about arm strength. It was awareness, timing, confidence, and instinct. The combination that separates quarterbacks who survive from quarterbacks who take over games. That's why this throw wasn't just a highlight. It was a warning shot to the league and a revelation to his teammates. Because when a rookie makes a play that even seasoned vets didn't see coming, it forces one inevitable question. If he can do that now, what happens when he actually gets experience? And that question leads into the part of this story most fans don't know: how a first-round talent ended up buried as a fourth stringer in the first place. Before Shedeur Sanders walked onto an NFL field and stunned the entire Browns sideline with that throw, he was supposed to be something entirely different. Not a long shot, not a developmental project, not a fourth-string afterthought. He was projected to be a first-round quarterback, a potential top 10 pick with the resume, the numbers, and the poise to justify all the hype. Scouts praised his accuracy, his footwork, and his ability to stay calm under pressure, something he showcased repeatedly in college, even while playing behind one of the most abused offensive lines in the NCAA. But then draft season arrived, and everything changed. Rumors started swirling. Reports claimed teams were concerned about his NIL brand. Some whispered about his father's influence. Others questioned whether the prime aura was inflating expectations. A few anonymous scouts, the same ones who routinely misjudge quarterbacks, suddenly decided his arm wasn't elite enough, his mobility wasn't dynamic enough, or his personality was too confident. Slowly, unfairly, and for reasons no one could fully explain, Shedeur slid. Round 1 passed, round 2 passed, round 3, still nothing. What had been a celebrated rise became one of the most shocking drops of the entire draft. And by the time Cleveland grabbed him at pick 144, the narrative had shifted completely. He went from future franchise QB to risky project in less than 48 hours. Then it got worse. Instead of giving him a real chance, the Browns buried him. Fourth string, no first-team reps, no preseason priority, no development plan. He was treated like a long-term experiment, not a quarterback expected to contribute anytime soon. A lesser player would have folded under that weight. A lesser player would have asked for a trade, made noise in the media, or stopped believing in the process. But Shedeur didn't flinch. He locked in, learned the playbook, worked behind the scenes, and waited. That patience, that discipline, is why when his moment finally came, because of someone else's injury, not opportunity handed to him, he walked onto the field already mentally prepared. And that's the part of the story most people don't realize. He didn't stumble into greatness. He was ready for it. Now the question becomes, how did the locker room react once he finally got his chance? Long before Shedeur Sanders ever took a real NFL snap, long before the viral throw, long before the stadium exploded in disbelief, something far more important was happening behind the scenes. Something subtle, something slow, something powerful. He was winning over the Browns locker room without saying a word. Not through speeches, not through hype, not through flashy moments at practice, but through consistency, humility, and actions that spoke louder than any interview ever could. When he arrived in Cleveland and realized he was buried on the depth chart, he didn't complain. He didn't act like the high-profile recruit who deserved special treatment. He didn't project entitlement. He projected gratitude. Veterans noticed that immediately. While other quarterbacks were taking first-team reps, Shedeur was staying after practice, throwing extra, building chemistry with practice squad receivers, running drills the coaches didn't even ask for. He studied film like he was the starter, even though the team treated him like he might never see the field. And the players paid attention. They saw him dapping up linemen after tough days. They saw him encouraging rookies. They saw him working with scout team defenders and asking questions most backups never ask. They saw him take coaching, criticism, and setbacks with maturity well beyond his age. That matters in an NFL locker room more than fans will ever understand. Then came the preseason. Shedeur finally got a tiny window, not even a spotlight, more like a crack in the door, and he seized it. He didn't look rattled. He didn't look overwhelmed. He ran the offense like someone who'd been preparing the entire offseason, even though he barely touched the starter reps. Players walked away thinking, okay, he might be something. But the real shift happened during practices leading up to his first start. Teammates could feel his composure. They could feel that he wasn't scared of the moment. They could feel his confidence. Not loud, not arrogant, just steady. By the time he stepped onto the field against the Raiders, the locker room wasn't wondering if he could play. They believed he could win. And after he did, after he shocked everyone outside the building, the guys inside were surprised. They'd already seen enough. There are compliments in the NFL, and then there are endorsements that shake an entire organization. What Myles Garrett did wasn't casual support. It wasn't a teammate being polite. It wasn't even a typical back the QB moment. It was a declaration, a warning, and a power play, all wrapped into one. Because when Myles Garrett speaks, the Cleveland Browns listen. The locker room listens. The coaching staff listens. Ownership listens. This is the face of the franchise, a generational defender, the heartbeat of the team. He's the player every other player follows without question. So when he publicly backed Shedeur Sanders in front of cameras, not privately in a meeting, not in a quiet locker room moment, but on record for the entire world to hear, that's a shift you can't ignore. And it wasn't a generic endorsement. Garrett wasn't saying, he played well, or he played well, managed the game. No, he pointed to something specific, that throw. The 50-plus yard laser down the sideline, the kind of throw only elite NFL quarterbacks can make. Myles Garrett didn't just call it impressive. He said it straight. There are not many guys in the league who can make that throw. Coming from him, that hits different. This is someone who spent his entire career terrorizing the top quarterbacks in the NFL. He knows what greatness looks like under pressure. He knows arm talent. He knows poise. And he saw all those qualities in Shedeur in just one start. People inside the locker room heard it too. When your best player puts his stamp of approval on a rookie QB, it creates momentum, real momentum, that no coach can control. Veterans start believing harder. Young players start following the rookie with more trust. The locker room begins aligning behind one voice, his. And now Kevin Stefanski is caught in the middle. Because going against fan pressure is one thing. Going against media noise is manageable. But going against Myles Garrett, that's career suicide. Garrett didn't need to say, start Shedeur. His message was clear, without ever finishing the sentence. Kevin Stefanski is officially backed into a corner, and every direction he turns comes with consequences that could reshape not only the Browns' season, but his own future as a head coach. This isn't just a quarterback choice anymore. It's a political battle, a locker room test, and a moment that will be talked about in Cleveland for years. On paper, the decision should be simple. Start the quarterback who won the game, energized the team, and earned the respect of the locker room. But Stefanski's situation is far more complicated because choosing Shedeur Sanders now forces him to confront a truth he's avoided all season: that he misevaluated the position from the start. He put Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur for months. He gave Gabriel the reps, the support, the playbook, the system. He kept Shedeur buried at fourth string, even after preseason flashes. If Stefanski now declares Shedeur the starter, he's admitting he was wrong. Coaches rarely do that, especially in the NFL, where ego and job security are tightly tied together. That's why this decision feels bigger than football. It's about pride, it's about control, and it's about whether Stefanski trusts his own eyes or is afraid to admit he misjudged a rookie who was right under his nose. But the other side of the dilemma is even scarier for him. If Stefanski goes back to Dillon Gabriel when he's cleared, he risks losing the locker room entirely. Players, especially veterans, don't forget moments like this. They know who gives them the best chance to win. And after Myles Garrett's endorsement, after the offensive energy shift, after the sideline reactions, there's no mystery about who they believe in. Choosing Gabriel means Stefanski is choosing his own evaluation over the team's confidence. Choosing Gabriel means ignoring Myles Garrett, the one player Stefanski absolutely cannot afford to alienate. Choosing Gabriel means walking straight into a storm of fan backlash that will drown out every press conference. The truth? There's no safe option anymore, but there is a right one. And everyone in Cleveland already knows what it is. Except maybe the man who has to say it aloud. Something unspoken is happening inside the Browns facility. Something coaches can't fully control, and something players rarely admit publicly. But if you pay attention, if you listen to the tone of post-game interviews, if you watch body language on the sideline, if you track who players gravitate toward, the truth becomes obvious. The locker room is shifting toward Shedeur Sanders, not because he's flashy, not because he's loud. Not because of hype or social media clips, but because football teams, especially NFL teams, run on trust. The offense trusts the quarterback who elevates them. The defense trusts the quarterback who won't waste their hard-earned stops. And players trust the guy who prepares like he's been a starter for years, even when he wasn't supposed to sniff the field. The first turning point came in practice. Teammates saw Shedeur diagnosing plays quickly, asking sharp questions, processing the offense faster than expected. They saw a rookie acting like a veteran. That matters. The second turning point came during his debut start, when players felt the energy swing the moment he stepped into the huddle. Coaches didn't scream. Teammates didn't tense up. Instead, they leaned in. They listened. They fed off his calm. That's rare for a rookie. And then came the throw, the 50-plus yard strike that made the sideline erupt. Bench jumps in unison. When helmets are slapped, when players look at each other like, we've got something here. That's not just excitement, that's belief. But the biggest turning point wasn't a single play. It was how Shedeur handled adversity. Pressure collapsing? He didn't panic. Protection breaking down? He extended plays. Raiders creeping back into the game? He made the defining throw of the night. Veterans saw that. Offensive linemen felt that. Receivers trusted it. When a quarterback shows he won't fold, teammates naturally rally behind him. Especially in Cleveland, a franchise that has lived through decades of instability at the position. They've seen quarterbacks crumble under pressure. They've watched promising players melt under expectations. So when a rookie steps in and doesn't crumble, That's when players start believing he might be the one. Quietly, gradually, but undeniably. If there's one thing NFL teams hate more than controversy, it's momentum they can never. And right now, the Browns aren't steering a ship. The fans are. The energy around Shedeur Sanders has grown so loud, so emotional, and so unified that Cleveland's front office has no choice but to feel it breathing down their necks. This isn't normal fan excitement. This is a movement, a tidal wave, an undeniable surge of belief that doesn't come around often in Cleveland, a city that has endured more quarterback heartbreak than any franchise in the league. The moment Shedeur stepped onto the field, you could feel the shift. Fans weren't just cheering, they were invested. They weren't just watching, they were waiting. Every snap felt like a test. Every throw felt like a referendum. And by the time he launched the deep ball dagger heard around the city, the stadium wasn't reacting. It was erupting. And then came social media. Clips went viral. Hashtags trended. NFL pages lit up with arguments, debates, and declarations. Start Shedeur. He's the guy. Don't go back to Gabriel. Cleveland fans who have every right to be skeptical after decades of quarterback disasters aren't being cautious. They're all in. That tells you everything you need to know about how different this moment feels. The Browns organization pays attention to that. Maybe they won't admit it, maybe Stefanski will pretend the noise doesn't matter, but ownership absolutely checks the pulse of the fan base. Ticket renewals, merchandise spikes, engagement metrics. In 2024, fan sentiment isn't just emotion, it's data. And the data screams that Cleveland has already chosen their quarterback. That puts enormous pressure on Stefanski. Because if he goes against this tidal wave, against the cheers, the trending clips, the fan unity that hasn't existed in years, he's not just making a football decision. He's making an enemy out of the entire city. And coaches don't survive that. The Browns can pretend they're being patient. They can pretend they're evaluating the situation. But the truth is simple. The fans won't let them go back. The city won't allow it. And the entire NFL can see which direction this story is heading. Every once in a while, the NFL delivers a moment that feels bigger than a single game. A moment that echoes past quarterback takeovers that change franchises forever. Shedeur Sanders' debut sits squarely in that category. Think about Tom Brady stepping in for Bledsoe. Think about Dak Prescott replacing Romo. Think about Brock Purdy seizing his unlikely opportunity. None of those quarterbacks were supposed to be the guy. All of them were doubted, overlooked, or seen as placeholders. And yet, the second they touched the field, something felt different. Teammates played harder, fans leaned in, the offense found rhythm. That's exactly what happened with Shedeur. The moment he took over, the Browns didn't just look competent. They looked alive, explosive, confident. This is how legendary QB eras begin. Quietly at first, then suddenly all at once. And now Cleveland finds itself on the edge of one simple question. Do they recognize the moment or let history slip away again? The Browns have spent decades searching for a quarterback who could change everything. Someone who brings hope, confidence, swagger, and real winning potential. And now, completely unexpectedly, a fifth-round rookie has walked into the spotlight and delivered all of that in one night. Shedeur Sanders didn't just play well. He didn't just survive the moment. He owned it. He earned the locker room's respect. He energized the fan base. He forced the coaching staff into the biggest decision of their tenure. This isn't hype. This isn't luck. This is what it looks like when a franchise accidentally discovers its future. The question now isn't whether Shedeur is ready. He already proved that. The real question is whether Cleveland is bold enough to embrace the moment and finally choose the quarterback who gives them a real identity. Because opportunities like this don't come twice.